FORA.tv. The world is thinking.
There's a lot of questions coming at me, I think, reflecting your book, so I'm going to start jumping into some of them. There's a question, or a couple questions here, asking about inclusion, around racial diversity and ethnic diversity, and noticing that our crowd isn't the most diverse crowd. And panel, absolutely.
They noticed that.
You're actually quite critical of the environmental justice movement in your book, asking the question whether it has actually achieved its mission and its raison d'etre. I wonder if you might comment on that.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's an interesting question. I mean, from the very beginnings of my career, I mean, it's a question that comes out, you know, you get in the room with other environmentalists, you know, and it's all white, and everyone kind of goes, well, God, how are we going to get more non-white people in the room? You know, and so, yeah, we kind of criticize the environmental justice movement because the answer is this very reductive one. It goes, well, let's take these environmental issues that we care about and try to make them more relevant to poor non-white communities by explaining to them how they are victims of environmental pollution. In fact, they might even be more victimized by environmental pollution than we are. And we kind of raise the question, well, the reason that there's not a whole, you know, that there's mostly white folks in the room is because those other communities are sort of dealing with sort of issues that just are much higher priority for them. I mean, if you can't have no confidence that you can send your kid to school and get them educated and get them home safe, if you have no health care, if you don't have a job, then, you know, even going and talking about the fact that your community is more polluted than the white community across the railroad tracks is just not going to make for a particularly compelling politics. It's actually not going to draw a lot more folks in the room. I mean, here we are, you know, 20 years into the environmental justice movement, and it's still all white folks in the room. So what's going on here? And our basic argument is that rather than doing that, what we should have done is kind of gone and really focused on the issues that, you know, started where those folks are at, which is, you know, I don't have a decent place to live. I've got crappy schools, crappy roads, crappy jobs, no services, you know, and you want to come talk to me about toxic chemicals, you know, that's not how you go build a powerful political force in those communities. Let's go start talking to them about, you know, their schools and their roads and their health care. Let's help them get the things that they quite rightly prioritize above, you know, being exposed to toxic contaminants in their community. Now, that's not to say we need to ignore those other things. It's to say that, you know, we need to construct an agenda that puts those sort of top priorities right at the center of it, and then does that in a way that also results in better ecological outcomes in the process. And there has been some movement in that direction, which is, you know, encouraging. But I think that it's sort of a funny, to get back to the original question, it's a funny question that gets asked over and over and over again. And the answer, at least to my mind, is never particularly edifying. It's like we've got to go convince those people to see the world like we see it, rather than starting where they're at.